LST-325 today. It's sitting here in Evansville, Indiana. It was a crucial part of World War II, especially when they went over to Normandy on D-Day.
So we'll go ahead and get started. So an LST, or Land Ship Tank, was designed in World War II to be a large naval vessel to transport troops, supplies, equipment, and vehicles, such as tanks, trucks, and a variety of different things directly on the beach during amphibious landings. The United States made 1,051 LSTs in World War II, roughly costing $1.3 million in 1940s to produce. In today's money, give or take for inflation, you're looking at about $8 to $19 million per LST. And we made them right here in Evansville. So if you look back over here, you see where the river bends over on the left, on the right-hand side, shoreline was the Evansville Shipyard. The official name is the Missouri Valley Bridge Yarn Company. And we made 167 of these ships, like we're on today, right here in Evansville, in just under 3 years. So if I did my math right, from the ground up, you can have brand new LST right off the line in about 6 days.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive.
How did you get them from here to the Atlantic?
Great question. So you take, this is the Ohio, so you take the Ohio River down to the Mississippi, around Paducah, lying between lakes around over there. Then you go down the Mississippi, all the way down to the port of New Orleans. And that's where you're loading up these smaller boats that you see hanging up on the davits. These are your LCDPs, or better known as Higgins boats, because Agent Jackson Higgins had his operation down in New Orleans. So you're loading all those up, and then once you're ready to go, you go through the Gulf, and then it's out to the Atlantic. Yep.
Could this get the
And we also have more than just LSTs here in Evansville. Didn't want to go in the river. Well, it's dirty. There's one at the Evansville Wartime Museum up by the Evansville Airports. And we also made around 3 billion .45 caliber bullet shells. Around 97% of the total .45 caliber shells made for the U.S. war effort were made right here in Evansville. So for a town of its size, which back then it wasn't really that big, we were making a lot for the war effort. And this LST that we're on today was made in Evansville. She was originally made in 1942 in Philadelphia, and she was commissioned in 1943 into the Navy. She did a little bit of training in Africa with Operation Torch, but she really stretched her legs in the Sicily and Salerno invasions of Italy in 1943. And she was also at Operation Overlord, which, as we just mentioned, D-Day, June 6, 1944. She made 44 trips back and forth across the English Channel, going back and forth, and delivering fresh troops and supplies in France, bringing back wounded soldiers and German POWs from prisoners of war. That it had a lot more damage that it sustained, but it was repaired throughout the course of the war. Yep. And whenever her contract expired with the Greeks in 1999, then it was a big question of what's going to happen to the ship. Well, she can get blown up at target practice, get tore up for scrap, or we can bring her back. And that's what we did. She came back to the United States in the year 2001, arrived here in Evansville in 2005. Her original home was back with those white pillars you can see over there, called Marine Points. And in 2020, we made a transition over here. We've been here ever since, and as I say, the rest is history. The standard LST is 328 feet long, 50 feet wide, about close to the size of a collegiate football field. A little bit smaller, but pretty close. Or if you want to think a little bit bigger, around a third of the size of the Titanic. Up here on main deck, we can hold to 30 deuce and a half or 2.5-ton trucks, and they're tied down to these yellow things called lily pads, also called clovers, that you see scattered around on the deck. The reason why I tie everything down is because the LST is a flat-bottom ship, and she's made that way so she can go directly up onto the shore and then drop off all the equipment and make her way back for other runs. Well, out in the middle of the ocean, she has a tendency to sway back and forth. We call it listing, and she can list anywhere from 45 up to 60 degrees in some cases. So you better make sure everything stays up here on main deck, otherwise you go flying off in the middle of the ocean. Now, how I got these things up here was with this elevator vehicle lift, this platform you see over here. It's powered by the cable winch. You can see up towards the front or the bow of the ship. The cables go onto the yellow wheels. They attach to the lift and lower itself down below to what we call tank deck, because we have more than just trucks on here. We also have 20 and 4 medium Sherman tanks, weighing roughly 25 tons each. And we'll talk a little bit more about Shermans down below and tank deck here in just a little bit. Everything goes out through the bow doors and ramp in the front, which we'll also see when we go down tank deck here in just a little bit. So, I know I threw live information at you all at once, but do you guys have any general questions about anything so far?
Wow.
All right. So, welcome to your berthing. So on ship, there's two types of people on here. You have the crew who actually lives and works on here. Their quarters on the other side of the ship, in case you're wondering, but they slept in racks and bunks just like this, just on the other side of the ship. And then here are troops, and they're taking care of the tanks and tank deck, trucks up on main deck, or sometimes they're on here for transportation, like Marines, for instance. On ship, we had around 110 crew members, including 18 officers. We can also hold over 200 troops all at the same time. Because as you can see, as you go down this way, that's not a mirror effect. It keeps on going for a good long while down that hallway. And you can fit 24 soldiers in one of these areas that we're in right now.
24, wow.
Yeah, you always felt bad for the guys that went up on his bunks, especially these guys. These are mainly Army guys. They're not used to being on open waters. So with the way the LSTs would sway back and forth, seasickness is very common in here. I mean, that's why they paint the floor green, right? Now, if you need to combat your sickness, this is where your helmet comes into play, because it has an outside liner. Now you have a brand new state-of-the-art kick bucket. Or actually wash and clean and cook and eat out of this if you felt like it. You can sharpen the front, use this as a shovel to dig foxholes, trenches, use a last resort weapon if you need to. You can store letters and notes from home between. You can collect rainwater in it. You can shave out of it. Use it as a portable john even. Very different things.
Female troops here too.
I'm sorry? And they would be nurses that were coming off from the shore, coming onto the LST if the LST was docked on shore. And then they would come on to the ship to help out with the wounded and everything like that. But that's the only time women would be on ship the whole winter. And something else you had on you all the time was your life jackets.
Heavier than I thought.
Jackets,
I think heavier than I thought it was.
Yep. Your life jackets were originally made out of cork. You had about 8 to 10 hours before it started giving what's called waterlogs, or water seeps into the cork and causes sink. Now, as you're floating that Milky Atlantic waiting for help to arrive, you can possibly die of hypothermia, or you can get eaten before then. So you better hope to help us on the way fast. Which, luckily for us, LSTs never travel by themselves. We're always surrounded in a convoy, surrounded by patrol boats, cruisers, battleships, or even destroyers in some cases. So if we're taking on water, help us very close by. Like that.
More of what it would look like, yeah. So this is the tank deck.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, considering that this is still a fully functional ship, it would take up a lot of wisdom. But we do kind of have a little bit of a tank, but I'll show you here in just a little bit. Going to the front, we're going to look at September, but we have some other things that are happening before that, so that we just had to get this set up. This year, we're going to the Nashville, Tennessee area. So we're going to Hendersonville, Tennessee, Ashton City, Tennessee, and then Clarksville, Tennessee, up in Fort Campbell. We'll be gone for about 3 to 4 weeks. And if you want to find out more, you can look on our website, lstmemorial.org/cruise.
So this is how they loaded and unloaded.
Yes. So this is the bad orders and ramp. Whenever the LST got close to the shore, they open up their doors, powered by motors on each side. And then the ramp is down the middle, that's just loose these yellow things called turnbuckles you see up in the open. The way that the doors and the ramp opened up, it reminded you of an alligator's mouth. So LSTs came out as the Gator Navy amphibious units, or the teeth of the fleas, or sometimes called. So you'll see pictures of gators with tanks coming out of their mouth.
Huh.
So that's a reference to the LSTs. That's what we use to direct traffic for 20-something tanks. Now there's been more just tanks in here. We get the half tracks, which are which trucks that drive to the water. We can even transport train cars on train tracks down here. And back in 1943, when we were in Sicily, we transported national parade donkeys right back here. So it kind of reminds me of that old slogan from the Postal Service. If it fits, it ships.
So I noticed the stretcher access. So did they pass people through there, I guess, from... Okay.
Yeah, wounded soldiers, which we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yellow poles come down on either side to indentions on the deck, and those become the tracks that the elevator uses to run the deck.
Wow, okay.
Now, the bad part about this only took one truck at a time, 6 minutes per truck. As you can imagine, that's a big time eater for the size ship. We have a couple of shops over here. So if you look where the red fan is down there, is our electric battery shop. And then right in front of us is our machine shop. This is where we do a lot of our repairs, so we're working on things on ships, just like you guys did back here too. Now the only bad parts about using some of these rooms is for some of us taller guys, when we go in there, you guys kind of duck down our heads a little bit because you have to try back into the show. Fuse testing on a machine just like this, you see over here. There's your fuse.
Yeah. Old style fuse, yep.
Imagine that thing going off. Do what?
How many amps is that?
It's machine shop.
I can find out for you. Looks like 250 volts.
So they were self-sustaining. They had their own machine shop, battery shop, all that stuff.
Anyway, and then your machine shop, this is where you're basically making parts, restoring parts, repairing parts for basically every component on the ship.
There you are. That's how they unload and load right there. Yep. Wow.
Today's D-Day, executed on June 6, 1944. The bridge is supposed to happen the day before, on June 5th, but there was a bad weather system coming through each channel at the time, and they decided to push back the day. But 5 beaches were involved. The Americans took Utah and Omaha Beach. The British took Gold and Sword, and some people forget this, but the Canadians helped out.
Have you ever been there?
Not yet.
We have in 2019.
Okay. Yep. Not yet. Yep. When abouts in 2019? June. So we might have been close by because I was around in France and Italy and Spain in 2019, in summer of 2019. So, which a lot of people don't remember this, but the Canadians helped out significantly during D-Day, and they were mainly on Junior Beach over here. But yeah, it's definitely on the bucket list. I definitely want to see it at some point. I've heard that if you get sand, like if you go out and just scoop sand and you hold it up to the light, you can actually still see bits of glass and stuff from vehicles and things like that.
Wow.
Yep. All right. So this is D+2, or June 8th, 1944, at Omaha Beach. So as you can see, once your beach is secured, you bring all your LSTs right onto the shore. And yours truly, the 325, which we're on right now, is right there where my finger is, right on the beach.
So it's in all the action.
In on the action.
One of the battle wounds from the D-Day.
It just shows you how cool this is. It's the craziest game of
So
Tetris.
it was that packed. Wow.
Also, remember me telling you that some of the guys will lose their lunch when they slept up there in true berthing?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they go on top and sleep on their trunks.
Oh, because it gives?
Well, I just think of it, there's a lot more room to puke up there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's probably cooler up there, too.
Right.
It's not as hot.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it always this warm in here? I mean, like this. Okay.
Yeah, it gets 20 degrees hotter and shit that doesn't work.
Okay.
And even then, if you had air conditioning, it only went to one place.
Right. Offices. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So whenever we're talking about D-Day, this is probably one thing a lot of people remember the most. And it could be because of that iconic movie, Saving Private Ryan. During the Normandy invasion scene beginning the movie, these are the boats used to get the guys up on the beaches of D-Day. These are your LCPs, your land craft vehicle personnel, often known better by its nickname, the Higgins boats, named after this guy, Andrew Jackson Higgins. That's his picture right there. He and his crew in New Orleans made over 20,000 of these boats. And wood or fiberglass, steel boiler parts, 30 35 to 40 combat range troops, up to 8,000 pounds of cargo, or even a small vehicle like the Willys Jeep you see right here, the model. We, LSTs, would transport these on big metal arms called davits, which you might have saw those upstairs as I pointed them out earlier. We're actually going to go up to the davits. We're going to see a Higgins boat. We'll talk more about it whenever we get up there in just a little bit. Right next to it, and check out a Lego
model of the LST. Wow. It shows it loaded. It was a 2026 winner Lego model of the LST-325.
Now looking at one of our engine rooms. This is the auxiliary engine room where we have three 671 Detroit diesel electric generators producing all electric power that we need when we go away from port. So all the lights, doors, everything are right down here. Also in these controls, or also down here we have controls for our ballast tanks. Which the ballast tanks are big water tanks that are at the very bottom of the built-in ship. You can hold over 180,000 gallons of water down there. And you can fill them so you can lower the LST so it doesn't toss around so much. Or you can empty them and raise up the LST so it doesn't get stuck in shallow water. And we're also using these ballast pumps, so you can see hanging up right over there, which can pump over 1,500 gallons of water per minute. Powered by this big glass bulb looking thing called vacuum tubes, so you see hanging out over there. It's crazy to think that TVs used to be powered by those things, right?
Kinda,
Then we have our radio guys, and they're doing two things for us simultaneously. They're receiving messages in their headsets via Morse code. They're interpreting what they're hearing on a typewriter in front of them, but sometimes he has to respond and telegraph with this telegraph button you see on the side. This guy knows how to type up to 80 words a minute to keep his job. Again, sometimes one-handed. Also, if you like country music, you might know the name Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
You may have liked it this one because in service.
Is that what he did?
That's what he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's why he's really, really good at guitar, right?
So Johnny Cash did the, wow.
Johnny Cash. Man in black himself. But also, this equipment wouldn't actually be stored down here in tank deck. It's actually up in the bridge, the communications tower on the ship. And we just have it down here so you have a chance to see what it looks like. Because whenever we go up to the bridge, we don't actually go into the bridge that these guys are.
Transformer room.
Standing on top of our main engine room, right underneath our feet. Down below, we have two V12 short motors, 560 horsepower piece. And they're connected to a 7-foot propeller, one on each end. And this thing at a whopping top speed of about 10 knots.
10 knots.
So about 12 miles per hour.
Right.
So that's why the crew doctor joked she was the last ship there, and long slow trains. But there's some other names to use for her, but we have a lady in her too. So I'll spare you. So you can imagine with me for a second that we just hit the beach not too long ago. All of our vehicles, all the tanks, all the trucks, all the troops are all gone and they're all fighting. Well, we're making return trips, and we're not coming back empty-handed. Because we're also bringing
Wounded.
soldiers.
Right. Wounded soldiers in, right?
So as you can see right here, you can set up a ward hospital right in here. We had 3 doctors on board and also 10 corpsmen who are kind of like nurses in their first aid training. You mind if I grab your shoulder for a second? So if you need to grab an extra corpsman, you went to the nearest guy beside you, grab by the arm, say congratulations, you're a corpsman now. Then you get about an hour's worth of training from a little pamphlet. You get a special patch put on your arm. You're given one of these packages where you have like things like aspirin and other like pills and things like that in there. Your syringes. You also have your dressings, which is kind of like your bandages and things like that, which were various sizes and shapes. You also had your instruments, so this is like your scalpels, your forceps, your surgical tools, that kind of stuff. And of course, the ever so popular morphine, right up there in that white box. Now, if you need to make extra space for the patients, you can use what this guy is using, our stretcher access. So this is a big metal door that you can lift up and over into the birthing areas. Where we saw those racks and bunks we moved to, because remember, they're coming all the way down here and all the way down here. So that way they're not going without ladders, you take corridors, just get right where they need to be. And also, so we carried more than just wounded soldiers back. We also carried some of the bad guys. So here's a picture of some Germans coming off our ship in England. German POWs who purchased a war in England in 1944. Now, we treat our POWs pretty well here in the United States, to the point that some Germans and their families either they stayed over here, then never went back home, or they come over here directly after the war's over to restart their lives here. If you want a really good account about like the local area population and their relationship with POWs, I would recommend visiting Camp Breckenridge. So Camp Breckenridge is just about 30 minutes away from here. It's like 30, 35, depending on how fast you drive. But it's over in Henderson, Kentucky, right past the Henderson County line. And it used to be a massive area for a tank, as you can see up here. We also have the Greek hero Achilles slaying Hector up there in Mestek, just in time for the Odyssey to come out, right? Mm-hmm. Following up this, whenever it was identified, it was just known as the LST-325. That's her production number. From the Greek Navy, she got the name Syros L-144, as you can see right up there in Greek. But then again, it's all Greek to me anyway.
So that was its Greek identification.
Correct.
Okay. Wow.
Syros is the Syros is the name of the Greek island.
Right.
I actually had the opportunity to take one of the guys who he served in the Greek Navy when this was in operation, and he actually served on this ship in the Greek Navy.
Wow.
When he was a part of the Greek Navy, and he came with his son, and his name was Christos, or Chris for short. But he was a really great guy, and he was just it was neat just seeing him coming back on here and happy tears the entire time. Just it was like he came back home. It was great. It was awesome. I mean, I asked him around 300 people in this little space. We didn't. So back in the day, there's a lot more space in here for tables and for chairs. More likely to see these pictures hanging up here on the wall, because this wall paneling that you see here wasn't here back in World War II. It was added by the Greeks to remember to use the ship. And since then, we still use the areas for other things, so we haven't actually expanded and broken down the walls and expanded it back to its original capacity. But the tables kind of remind me of train dining car tables, because they have these little lips on there, so that way your trays can come sliding off your table. But something else you can do is you can get a piece of bread, you can get it wet, slap it onto the table, put the tray on top of the bread, and the bread works as a suction cup.
Interesting.
Then if you go down the stairs, on the left is a big brown door, which is our refrigerator, and then we have a freezer down back over this way. And this is where we still use these as. Now in the Army, you might call this a latrine, but as common folk, this is the restroom. So this is where your toilets and sinks and showers are located. There's an identical
Serving line.
Yes. So this is probably the most important place in the entire ship. This is the galley. This is where you get your food. And it works today just like it did back in World War II. It's just technology's gotten a little bit better over time. We have microwaves now. But this is where we get fed 3 square meals a day whenever we're out on cruise. Then when we have what's called work weeks, where volunteers stay on ship for a variety of things throughout the year, then they can get fed 3 square meals a day right here. Over here is our post office, and this is ran by a guy called the yeoman. So yeoman's playing postmaster. This is where you get letters back and forth from home. He got paid here, which is why there's bars on the windows. There's usually a safe with money in here. He's also in charge of the medical records, because the pharmacist is right next door. Now, because he's in charge of your medical records, if you did anything to upset that yeoman, you could throw your medical records off ship. Then you'd have to get all your shots and your vaccines and everything all over again if you want to come back on here.
Wow.
I don't know about you guys, but I hate getting shots. So I'm gonna steer clear of that for a while. But also, you might see a picture of a beautiful lady right up there in the middle. This is Betty Grable, very famous pennant from World War II. And she personally signed that picture, original 325 crew.
Now we're outside. See the Ohio River.
Right. So over here, this is the back or the stern of the LST, and dangling from it is our stern anchor, which weighs 3,000 pounds or a ton and a half. This is the first step wherever the LST that close to the shore. You drop your anchor about 2 to 3 ship lengths away, or up to 1,000 feet out. Then, whenever you're ready to go off the shore, you use this powerful anchor winch, this spool thing over here, that pulls the LST towards the anchor, kind of like a fishing reel going backwards, and it pulls down open waters and goes wherever it needs to.
Gotcha.
Oh, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to ask, but do you guys have any questions about anything so far? No? All right. this is our lovely 40mm Beaufort cannon, and it's firing a bullet. It looks like this. I'll
Wow.
leave it down, won't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
It hurt. Yeah, it hurt just a little bit.
So this gun is shooting 120 of these bullets a minute up to 8 miles away.
Wow.
I understand they started dropping proximity fuses in the aircraft.
Two guys are reloading right here. A 4-bullet magazine, or mag for short, also referred to as a clip. It slides right on in, just goes off one after the other after the other. Then you have these two guys, these black chairs, just one over here, one on the other side. One guy's rotating the entire gun base, the other one is raising one on the barrel. So then they work together to coordinate the gun to whichever place they need to go. Then a fifth person is standing over here and he's firing the gun. He's firing it when the guy in this nest up here is telling you to do so, known as the gun talker or the gun director is the name for him. He is in charge of this gun, that gun, that gun, and if there's two 50-cal machine gun mounts up on the bridge, he's in charge of those guns too. He's basically telling you where to shoot, how often to shoot, try to take down speed. You're probably wondering, how the heck are these guys communicating back and forth with all the guns going on?
Out of here, yeah.
That's very, very hard to hear. That's right. So they are wearing helmets like this.
Okay.
Looks like something out of Star Wars or Spaceballs or something, right?
Hey.
But if you look on the inside, they have an indentation for sound-powered radio headsets.
Okay.
So how it works, there's a little metal piece wrapped around a copper coil inside your headset that vibrates whenever your voice activates it. And when it does, it creates a little electromagnetic frequency around that copper coil that sends your voice across the cable to where it is it's connected to. It's kind of like the old tin can string idea, just a little enhanced version.
Yep.
And our entire BPS, or battle phone system, works the exact same way on ship, just in case your power goes out, then you can still use telephones. And it's on these big metal arms called davits. So the davits run on tracks. There's a track going down this way, track going down that way, that lower the boat down towards the water and then over the water with the ship. And the cables you see on the other side actually lower it down into the water, much like the movie Titanic, if you've ever seen that, when they're dropping the lifeboats in the movie, when the ship is sinking.
So is that enough biggest boats for all the combat troops are transporting?
Yes. Yep. And so this is the wheelhouse, and this is where you steer the ship. You have 3 guys in here. You have a guy steering the big ship's wheel. That's where the room guy's named. Then you have someone that's communicating directly up above to the sea cabin. This is where the captain is. He usually has a little bit better vantage point. He's also a little bit more protected. Then you have a third person that's writing down everything the captain told him, what's called a logbook, that you can use to review afterwards if you needed to. So you can see what went right, what went wrong, things like that. So behind here, where Kilroy's hanging out in that window, that's our navigation room, also known as our chart room. And that's that big radar that we saw downstairs would be in there.
Been there.
And then behind that was a small radio room. So some of those radio guys, like what we saw set up downstairs, would be in here.
Wheelhouse. Wheelhouse.
And then upstairs, we have a spare radio room right up there, right behind the sea cabin, because you're usually dealing with more than one branch in the military at one time, so you divide the radio chatter on ship. So this one on the bottom is our Navy radios, so that convoy I told you about. Also the Coast Guard would be taken care of in here. Upstairs, if you had them on ship, if you had armies, or like Army units, Marine, or even Army Air Force or Army Air Corps units, then they would be up there. And today, we use the all-glass area at the very top of the ship to control the ship today, and that's the con tower. Now the con tower, the physical tower itself, wouldn't be added till after World War II, just due to technology reasons. You didn't really have it in the first place, so you really didn't need it. But also that'd be a primary target for kamikaze pilots out in the Pacific. If they knew that's all they had to hit, take out an LST, they'd do it all day, no problem. But today, we have a joystick that controls the ship. I've actually driven this before for a little bit. It rides pretty well for an 84-year-old ship, if I do say so myself. We also have a couple of monitors, gauges. We also have a GPS tracker. So if you want to follow us as the ship heads out on its annual cruise, you can do so online.
Cool.
Yep.
Is it using the original weapons?
Oh, yes. Still kicking.
Officers' quarters. Feel it with AC coming on when you come in here.
That's got to be officer stuff.
Yep.
All right. So welcome to Officers Country.
Yep.
Now don't worry, we'll make you guys learning officers today, so don't have to scrub this area up and down with a toothbrush. But this room that we're looking at right now, this is the wardrooms. This is where officers would eat, discuss battle plans. You can also conduct emergency surgery in here if you really needed to at that table right there. Down these 2 passageways on either side are staterooms. Each stateroom could hold 2 officers at one time, but usually each officer had their own room. In the middle, we have our shower. Behind that is an officer's head or restroom. behind that is the pharmacist's office, which is also a small pharmacy. So like medicine, bandages, first aid supplies can be found in there. And we still use it today to that capacity, just like they did back in World War II. And at the very tail end on the left is that yeoman's office that we saw back in the galley. The room next to the big red bell, right down this way, is our steward's room, also known as the wardrobe pantry. So this is where officers would get their meals. So stewards would go down the passageway to the galley, get the food, come over here, put on fancy china plates, and send off through the doorway where the box stand is at the end of the room, down back over there. Which I'm sure made the food taste a lot better than being on the military.
Oh, sure.
And this room at the very tail end on the left is the captain's cabin. So this is where the captain has best accommodations on the entire ship. He has his own desk with working telephone. And in the back, he has his own private bed. So, how we get out? There's a yellow handle on the right hand.
On the deck of the LST.
How's it going? Good, so? Doing. Aren't you telling them lies back there? What are you doing?
Where do you think I learned them from? All right, so this red and white circle that we're on right now, I'm sure you guys can put two and two together, and this would be used for?
Halo pad.
Absolutely, which we can use for medevac or evac today if we really need to. But back in the day, in World War II, you wouldn't have seen this on here for two good reasons. One, the first time U.S. military using a helicopter wasn't until 1944 in Burma. So by that point, the war was pretty much over, so you didn't see it for that reason. But another really big reason is, well, think about it. Looks like a massive bullseye target from up above, especially for enemy bombers. And they would love to do some target practice out here if they could.
Mm-hmm.
You guys see that blue and yellow star up in the gun talker nest? That's the Star of Macedonia, also known as the Aegean Star. I've even heard it called the Virginia Sun. But it's basically a good luck charm that was left over from the Greeks. And we kept it on there for historical reasons, but also you can never have too much good luck, right? Then that flag that's dangling up there today is the original U.S. Navy Union Jack, designed in 1775 when the Navy was first founded. It's a red and white striped flag with a famous rattlesnake and a "Don't Tread on Me" message down at the bottom, which that rattlesnake has 13 rattles on his tail, the original 13 American colonies, if you ever take a chance to look. Alright, so before we go today, I just want to take a special moment to recognize any veterans or
This is the gift shop here at the LST after the tour. It also gives a little bit of history. It's kind of like a museum gift shop combined. Talks about D-Day landing. Has some old phones. Of course, it has gift shop stuff. Typical gift shop things. Then back here is more of kind of the museum stuff here. A lot of it talks about how Evansville built LSTs, how they built P-51 Mustangs, how they built a lot of the ammunition. For instance, there's Servelle, Thoughtless Casters of Evansville, Hercules Buggy Company, Hoosier Cardinal, Sunbeam Manufacturing. There's a uniform place that was used for the military uniforms. International Steel, which a lot of the steel from the boats came from. Bois Aires, they also made a lot of mining equipment, drag lines, things like that. Here's a Chrysler plant, because a lot of the military engines had Chryslers. A lot of the Jeeps were Chrysler. Here's Eisenhower talking to one of the troops with Airborne. And this shows the storage of the ships whenever it was here at the shipyard in Evansville. Evansville Shipyard Location Board. Here's a model of the LST-325. Get my shadow out of there. Higgins boats that he was talking about. Compass. Here's one of the 22 millimeter A gun shell ammunition boxes and one of the guns. Here's another ship. What is this one? This is ARL-20, which I would assume is another ship of this era. And then it says the LST-1096. So I guess these were both LSTs, just different numbers.